Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to a closer look at our What Lies Beneath video. In this video, I'm sharing it all, the inspiration behind What Lies Beneath, tips to help you use this product, and more. I hope you find this video helpful and that it gives you a better understanding of our product. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. I'm so excited to be back here sharing with you today here on the This Calls for Confetti channel. And if you could be so kind and click that subscribe button, and don't forget to click that bell so you don't miss out on upcoming content. On the screen, we have the What Lies Beneath die set. This 9-piece die set features a foundational die, referred to as the floor joist, a crowbar, and 7 embossed wood planks. The inclusion of the multiple planks provides versatility in the design. A traditional hardwood floor is typically laid out by staggering planks of varying lengths. Therefore, this set allows for more realistic flooring options when desired. Recognizing that crafters sometimes prefer simplicity, I have also included one plank that spans the width of the foundation die. Additionally, to create an authentic aged look typical of older floors, some sections are designed to appear broken. I'd love to share some tips and the inspiration behind this die set with you, but first let's dive into the tutorial together. To streamline things a bit, I've handled all my die cutting off screen, and we're beginning with the floor joist, the foundation die, cut from black cardstock. So my first tip, when you position that foundation metal die cut side down on your cardstock, consider numbering each of those openings with a pencil. This simple step makes it so much easier to place all the pieces back where they belong. And don't worry, those numbers will remain hidden beneath the floorboards where they won't be visible at all. Now, there are two ways you can assemble this, either by leaving space between each plank or by butting those pieces up together. Whichever method you choose, please pay careful attention to the spacing. Consistent spacing on the joist is crucial, otherwise your design will appear uneven. Now, don't be intimidated by this step. It's an easy process, and we're going to have a look at it shortly. But with a little patience and care, you'll have evenly spaced floors in no time. So this brings me to tip number 2. If you finish assembling your floor shaker and find it appears uneven, you can hide your mistakes easily by die cutting a few extra planks and laying them over the other planks at an angle. It creates a disheveled look as if someone ripped the boards up and tossed them aside. Now, the next thing I want to share with you is how I easily add color to the boards. And once I start this technique, I'll explain the inspiration behind this design. For this technique, you're going to need a few essentials. One, a splatter box. You can see here I am using a Simon Says stamp kit box for my splatter box. If you purchase kits from Simon Says Stamps, just know these boxes are perfect for this airbrushing technique I'm going to share with you. The next thing I use is my rechargeable airbrush. I seem to lean more towards alcohol inks. I like the look that it gives me using the airbrush. So I just put a few drops of Tim Holtz alcohol ink into the cup on the top of the airbrush. The knob you see me turning, that's the airflow. So if you turn it all the way to the right, you're going to have very little airflow coming out, which means you'll get less ink coming out. If you open that airflow up to the left, you're going to have more airflow coming out, and it's going to give you more ink coming out. So I'm going to go ahead and make the adjustments that I need to make on the airflow, and I'm opening it up, and then I'm going to pull that trigger back, and then I'm going to start applying the ink by just pulling back on my trigger and then swiping it back and forth across the die cut pieces. So you're going to notice here as I'm doing this, because this is an air brush, the air flowing out does cause the pieces to move around. You can avoid that with one simple trick. Repositionable tape to the back of your die cut pieces, lay them in the box, and that tape's going to hold your pieces in place. I'm going to show you that in just a second. I sometimes don't worry too much about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not in a big hurry. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. And then other times I'm like, nope, I'm going to lay these down with tape on the back of them and hold them in place. It does save some hassle, I'll be honest with you. If you take the time to grab that repositionable tape, put a little bit on the back, press it down to the box, and now you're going to see how much easier it is for me to spray this without it going all over the place. Also, notice how I'm only using a few drops at a time. Another thing I love about this is that I have a lot of boards laid in here, and ink blending can sometimes, with a brush, can sometimes start to hurt my hands. I don't have that problem when I'm using the airbrush. So it does cut back on issues with my hands. You can also layer colors with this. I'm going to first do this first layer, and then I'm going to come in with teak wood alcohol ink and go over these one more time. And it's just a quick and simple way to add ink to the boards. Once I have the ink sprayed across these, I will come in and we're going to show that step with a blender brush and black ink along the edges. So while I finish this airbrushing, I want to share with you the inspiration. Recently, I found myself drawn into a few drama series set in old manors and mansions. Each series dove deep into the stories that haunted these places. I find the history of old homes fascinating, and I love to explore old abandoned homes. The following day, after watching the drama series, I was doing some routine chores around my house. I couldn't shake the thoughts of these grand homes and all the secrets they held. Some of those secrets literally trapped in the floors and walls for decades. And it was in those moments of reflection the idea sparked. Wouldn't it be amazing to create an interactive shaker set where we could hide things beneath floorboards? And thus, the What Lies Beneath and What Lies Within die sets were born. Now, why do I share this with you? Because I want you as a crafter to know inspiration comes from all around us. We just have to let it happen, right? I feel like the more I share about my products, the inspiration, the tips, the tricks, the hows, the whys, right? The more use and enjoyment you're going to get out of those products. Now, I mentioned earlier that after I finished airbrushing the pieces, I would come in with a blender brush and black ink and apply that ink along the edges of each piece. I'm using a sticky mat to hold those pieces in place while applying the ink around the edges. I'm going to leave those pieces on the sticky mat and just move the whole piece to the side so we can start assembling the What Lies Beneath shaker. The first step in creating our shaker card is determining where the shaker element's going to fall in the floor. And for me, it's going to be in the center area. So I'm going to remove piece number 3 and 4. Remember, we talked earlier about numbering those pieces because it just makes it easier to put things back in place when you're ready to revisit them, and we will be using those pieces. I will use liquid glue to the sides and edge of my die cut pieces to adhere them in place, but first I want to play around with the placement of each piece. I want to know I have it exactly where I want it before I start adding glue to it. Also, if you noticed, there was a piece of tape that ran down the center of the die cut pieces, holding everything in place for me. A Scotch removable tape, a mint masking tape, anything that's removable that will hold things in place for you. Even press and seal works great as well. Will make this process so much easier. You won't be fighting with pieces that are moving around. Everything's in place and secure, and you're good to go. So here's a tip that I have for you. When you're doing this, you're going to want to start by adhering the boards you're using to create your shaker element first. It makes the process so much easier. I'm going to use my magnets on my glass board to hold everything in place, and I'm lining this up with the grid on my glass mat. This is going to help me lay these boards down so that we have that nice even spacing on those joists. Remember, we talked about that earlier, how it was really important for you to lay these down as evenly top and bottom of the joist as you could. It's side to side as you look at it here in the video. Now notice where I'm laying the glue down on these, on the edges and the end of the board. The rest of it we won't apply glue to just yet. Once I have the glue down, I'm going to line the piece up with the edge of my foundation piece and center it up on the two joists, so that when it's laying there and you're looking at it, you have nice even spacing on both sides. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side, and then we'll finish off the next two pieces as well. This is the most time-consuming part of the whole process, is laying your boards down, figuring out exactly the placement of the shaker, and once you have all of that done, the rest of it is really quick. So you can see here, I'm using the longer board because the short broken board and the long broken board actually go together. The pieces will fit together. If you take those two broken ends and slide them together, they fit in nice and neat together. So it looks like those two pieces of boards were one board that had been broken in half, right? So that's why I use these, but you most certainly could just use the short pieces, or you could use the long pieces. It's just however you want to create your shaker. You can do one open area, or you can leave a bigger open area by doing two of the areas of the in between the joist and leave those open. You could do 3 or 4 if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. This truly is unique in that you can customize the shaker where you want it, how big you want it. It's truly a neat die set. So now that I have these pieces laid down and I feel like I have them in a lining up nice and neat and the spacing is good on them, we're going to go ahead and start to add the last boards to this. Now this part here is so easy. And I do want to talk to you about leaving the pieces in between the joist, because what this does is it keeps everything flush across your card. If you were to take those pieces out and then you add the boards on top, it would look like the boards were sinking down in between the joist of that foundation piece, right? We don't want that. We like for the front of our card to look nice and flush all the way across. So leave those pieces in, grab your boards, and we're going to apply glue to the back of these. You want to put glue all over the back of it, along the edges and then in the center. And then we're going to start either on either side of the pieces you've already laid down and just lay these down. These pieces run from edge to edge. I'm leaving a little bit of space in between the pieces I already laid down and the one I'm laying down now. And I'm going to continue this process until I have the other pieces laid in place. So we're on to the last step in this process, and once you've let that dry for a few minutes, you're going to flip it upside down. You're going to grab the pieces 3 and 4 that we removed in the beginning. Also grab a pencil and a pair of scissors. You're going to use the pencil to apply tick marks to these pieces so we can trim them down and place them back in to that foundation piece. This is really important because remember we talked about using these fallout pieces from the foundation to keep everything flush across the front of our card. So you're going to get to see this in action here. We're going to grab our pencil. We're going to lay down tick marks to tell me where I need to cut. You want to be mindful of what runs deepest. So up here at the top, that one runs deepest. I want to make sure I'm cutting back behind that point so you won't be able to see this sticking out from any parts of that broken plank, right? So we're just going to take our scissors once we've added those tick marks, trim these down, throw the other piece away, add some glue down, and then lay these back into that foundation piece. We'll let this dry for a few minutes, and then we'll trim the edges off with a pair of scissors, and we're ready to lay down our acetate to the back of this, and then put our mounting foam and add our shaker bits. Now I'm using a piece of leftover acetate to close up my shaker element, but you could easily use cardstock in place of that acetate or adhere it directly to your card base. I just find it a little bit easier to close the shaker element first and then add it to a card base. Now at this point, it's truly up to your imagination. I do have several samples I'm going to walk you through real quick, just in case Mother Mojo decided she needed one last vacation this summer. This is the card that we were working on during the video. I used the What Lies Within and the Ghostly Greetings to create that spooky little scene. And of course, I added some bones up underneath our floorboards with our Halloween hues mix. Here you can see we created a truly unique card using the What Lies Beneath. We created that creepy black and orange fence. We used the Hello elongated die set to do a partial shaker above the fence line, and some sneak peeks happening here from September 1st. Moving on into this fun little card that you saw earlier in the video with the boards scattered about. It's a great way to cover up mistakes. And again, we have some old or just recently released, I'm not going to call it old just yet, and some sneak peeks happening there. Now, you've seen some of these samples that I'm sharing with you now over on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm sure of it since we've shared this release since August 1st. I want you to know how much we appreciate you here at This Cause for Confetti. We truly hope these videos with insights and tips and how-tos really give you the best use of your products. If you ever have questions, always feel free to contact us, and I will do my very best to answer those questions for you. Now, I have all the products linked down below in the description box, except for those sneak peeks. You're getting the first sneak peeks here on YouTube. Like I mentioned, all those links are listed down below. We hope you'll join us on Facebook and Instagram and over on Pinterest. And until next time, please take care.